Hello. On behalf of the National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association and the Leaders Against Pain, I'm delighted to welcome everyone to the first webinar of our three-part webinar series in preparation for the Food and Drug Administration Public Fibromyalgia Patient-Focused Meeting to be held on December 10th in Rockport, Maryland. This is Jan Chambers, President and founder of the National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association, and I'll be your host today. We are thrilled with the response for today's program, which will run about 40 minutes. In preparing the webinars, we've learned more about the work of the FDA and thought you might also like to know. However, before we go to the content of the program, I would just like to invite you to know a little more about us. The National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association, NFMCPA, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that educates, supports, drives research, and advocates for millions of people suffering with fibromyalgia and chronic pain illness. Fibromyalgia affects more than 10 million Americans, with a ratio of 8 to 2 of women to men. More specifically, we advocate for quicker diagnosis of chronic pain illnesses, more effective treatments, and more funding for chronic pain research. Earlier diagnosis and treatments lessen the severity of symptoms over time. The focus of this webinar is fibromyalgia to prepare for the December 10th FDA meeting. Leaders Against Pain is a network of people across the globe trained in media, advocacy, and facilitating support groups. They are the advocacy arm of the National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association. The NFMCPA develops CME, or continuing medical education, for doctors and healthcare providers, sponsors exhibit booths at medical conferences, and develops materials for healthcare providers to distribute to their patients. We provide a monthly newsletter and a quarterly magazine. We sponsor the May 12th National Fibromyalgia Awareness Day events, as well as provide support with how-to guides for local events organized by community members. The NFMCPA website is a community resource with hundreds of articles, research, and inspirational stories. Facebook connects with almost 30,000 people. Twitter helps us message instantly about important information, and Pinterest is just fun. Today we are meeting because the FDA is asking for patient perspectives on the impact of fibromyalgia on daily life, as well as comments about available therapies for fibromyalgia as part of its patient-focused drug development initiative. Fibromyalgia is one of 20 diseases chosen for the 3-year initiative, or PDUFA. Patients and participants have the option to submit comments or attend in person or watch by webcast. After November 27th, 4 to 5 selected panel members will be notified. The FDA will, during the meeting, will have equal audience time for people to be able to make comments from the floor. The average time for comments is going to be 4 to 5 minutes. So the information that people are prepared to take needs to be prepared for that time frame. This is the first of 3 webinars sponsored by the NFMCPA intended to help educate the community for informed participation and action. The public comment period is open until February 10th, 2014. Some people may decide to submit written comments after the December 10th meeting, so their comments will cover different symptoms or experiences or opinions than those presented at the live meeting. Although we won't be able to get to every question and concern that was submitted to us, please know that those questions help shape our programs and help inform us to know what topics still need to be addressed. So if we don't get to your question, please know that we took it deeply into consideration and may address it at a later time. We want to help enable the patient community to participate to the best of their ability and knowledge. We are recording today's webinar, which will be available on our YouTube channel later this week. People participating will also receive a link to that recording in their email after it has been uploaded. Additional resources will be included in the email, and these references will be posted on the home page of our website. Leaders Against Pain will be available to help you find your authentic voice and to highlight pertinent points in your personal story after the second webinar on November 12th. It's important to point out here that the terms meeting and hearing are used interchangeably by the FDA. The Tuesday, December 10th meeting is more of a hearing than a meeting. Immediately after the registration session closes on November 27th, applicants will be notified if they were selected to be a panel member. The goals for today's webinar are to address some of the challenges in the medical research and development system, as well as outline the FDA process for translating promising scientific discoveries into medical solutions accessible to patients. These goals will be addressed in the following presentation that was created by the FDA. We appreciate your interest in participating in our webinar series. We would like to acknowledge the CFIS Association of America and the Narcolepsy Network for their development of patient-focused materials for earlier FDA meetings that guided the work of the National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association, along with the Leaders Against Pain.
I'll begin with Module 1 of the Patient-Focused Drug Development webinar. In this module, we'll briefly talk about FDA's history, mission, authorities, processes, and standards, which together form the regulatory setting for the development and marketing of medical products. At the turn of the 20th century, there was essentially no regulation of medical products. Drugs and medical devices were often marketed without having been tested for benefits or for risks in animals or in people. In some cases, they were marketed on the basis of untested theories. In other cases, products were marketed in a deceitful manner as a way to make a quick, if unethical, profit. In either case, the results were often disastrous, with many patients experiencing serious or fatal adverse events. The products were often marketed with exaggerated or false promotional claims, and it became clear that the market could not determine whether a medical product was helpful or harmful to patients. The need for regulation of medical products became apparent. Lawmakers created and steadily expanded federal laws granting authority to FDA to regulate testing and marketing of medical products through the 20th century. Under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, the Public Health Service Act, and other laws, FDA has the authority to regulate testing of medical products to protect study subjects from unreasonable research risks. FDA also has the authority to determine whether a product has been adequately tested and whether data from testing support the product's approval. In addition, FDA regulates products in the post-market setting to ensure that products are safe and effective even years after their initial FDA approval. FDA currently employs over 12,000 people at its FDA headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, who support the FDA mission. They include physician specialists, nurses, pharmacists, statisticians, chemists, clinical pharmacologists, lawyers, and people with many other forms of specialized training. Medical product review is conducted by review teams with different areas of knowledge and skills. These teams review technical data and make regulatory decisions on the benefits and risks of new products within very tight time frames. Other experts monitor prescription drug advertisements for false or misleading claims, evaluate reports of quality problems of marketed products, and ensure that marketed medical products are safe and effective for their intended use. In addition, FDA inspectors in field offices around the country and around the world conduct inspections of clinical research sites and manufacturer facilities and perform numerous other critically important activities. FDA has two missions with respect to medical products: protecting public health and promoting public health. The first mission, protecting public health, refers to FDA's historic mission to protect people from marketing of products that are unsafe or not effective. Under this mission, FDA performs an important function in carefully reviewing non-clinical and clinical data to ensure that the benefits of a new product outweigh its risks before allowing it to be marketed. If a product is shown to be beneficial to patients with a certain medical condition or disease, and those benefits outweigh any risks of the product, then the product will be approved for marketing for its specific use. There are a number of common misconceptions related to FDA's role and mission. One of the most frequent is the idea that FDA develops or produces drugs. FDA does not develop drugs or test them in clinical trials. Researchers, medical product manufacturers or developers, nonprofit patient advocacy organizations, and others decide which diseases will be a topic of medical research and which product will be developed. Medical product developers are allowed wide scope in their design of clinical trials as long as patients in the clinical trials are not faced with unreasonable risks, and so long as the trials are designed so that the data can be understandable after the trials are completed. Another common misconception is that FDA is responsible for conducting clinical trials for the new drugs before they are reviewed. FDA does not run clinical trials, and FDA employees are not on site during clinical trials. Instead, federal regulations require that researchers conducting human research in clinical trials must report their research plan, any changes to the study design, serious adverse events such as a bad reaction to the drug, and other important events to FDA. FDA experts carefully monitor and analyze these reports following thousands of clinical trials that occur in the U.S. and internationally. Many people also think that FDA regulates doctors and how they treat their patients, but FDA does not have authority to regulate the practice of medicine. FDA regulates the development and marketing of medical products, but the practice of medicine, surgery, pharmacy, and other healthcare professions are regulated by state boards. This means doctors are free to prescribe or give patients an FDA-approved drug to treat symptoms or conditions even beyond the one for which the drug was approved. This is called off-label use of FDA-approved products and is a common and accepted part of the practice of medicine. However, patients should be aware that sometimes these uses are not tested and proven. FDA is sometimes criticized for not regulating drug prices, but the consideration of drug price is not part of the FDA's mandate under federal law. FDA does not have the authority to make product approval decisions based on drug prices. FDA does not even receive information on pricing. Therefore, we don't have authority to participate in any issues or discussions on pricing for drugs or other medical products. FDA's second mission, promoting public health, involves a different way of working with medical researchers and medical product manufacturers or developers. FDA has great technical expertise in medical product development. For example, an FDA clinical reviewer for Parkinson's disease reviews applications for every major clinical trial and new product related to Parkinson's disease. He or she would have world-class knowledge on clinical trial design and understanding of Parkinson's studies. FDA's missions of promoting public health involve sharing that expert knowledge with medical researchers and medical product manufacturers. FDA does not share proprietary secrets to the applicant's competitors, which means FDA does not share information about what is in the drug company's product or how the product was made. What FDA experts do provide to companies is technical assistance. For example, FDA will meet with companies face-to-face to talk about the clinical trial design and how studies can best determine whether a drug can benefit patients with a particular disease. Manufacturers and researchers can take advantage of the option to meet with FDA staff. These meetings are scheduled within tight time frames so that the development of promising new therapies can move forward rapidly. The Prescription Drug User Fee Act, or PDUFA, allows FDA to collect fees from companies that produce drugs to help ensure resources to support efficiency of FDA's review process. These fees are called user fees, and they are supplementary to the budget FDA receives each year. In addition to providing technical help to companies that produce medical products, FDA experts often take part in meetings arranged by patient advocacy organizations. These meetings bring together expert medical researchers, medical product manufacturers, FDA regulators, and patient advocates to discuss recent research findings and to develop new ways to design and conduct clinical trials. FDA also issues guidance documents that describe the agency's current thinking in a given area. These guidance documents can range from general advice on clinical trial design to specific guidance on developing drugs in a particular therapeutic area, such as Alzheimer's disease.
Welcome to Module 2 of the Patient-Focused Drug Development webinar. I am Dr. Robert Yetter. I'm the Associate Director for Review Management at the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research at FDA. In this presentation, I will provide an overview of the drug and biologic development process, as well as an explanation of FDA's role in the development process. When a new drug or biologic emerges from drug discovery as a viable candidate, there is considerable work that must be performed before it can be tested in humans. This is the preclinical stage of drug development. Sponsors or pharmaceutical companies, research institutions, and other organizations must test new drugs on multiple species of animals in order to gather basic information on the safety and efficacy of the drug being investigated. Upon gathering this information, the sponsor submits an investigational new drug application, or an IND, to FDA, showing the results of animal testing and describing what they propose to do for human testing. At this point, FDA decides whether it is safe for the company to move forward with testing the drug in humans. The preclinical stage lasts between 5 and 10 years. INDs are reviewed by FDA and a local institutional review board, IRB, consisting of scientists and non-scientists in hospitals and research institutions. The IND must contain animal pharmacology and toxicology studies, including sufficient data to permit FDA to assess whether the product is reasonably safe for initial testing in humans, manufacturing information, including sufficient data to permit FDA to assess whether the sponsor can adequately produce consistent batches of the drug, clinical protocols and investigator information, including plans for the design and conduct of the proposed studies in humans. If the preclinical research indicates that it is reasonably safe to proceed with human testing, the sponsor will begin clinical development of the product. This part of drug development is comprised of 3 segments of study, phases 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 studies are usually conducted in healthy volunteers and are focused on the safety of the drug. The goal here is to determine what the drug's most frequent side effects are and often how the drug is metabolized and excreted. The number of subjects typically ranges from 20 to 80. If the results of phase 1 studies do not reveal unacceptable toxicity, development moves into phase 2. While the emphasis in phase 1 is on safety, the emphasis in phase 2 is on effectiveness. This phase aims to obtain preliminary data on whether the drug works in people who have a certain disease or condition. For controlled trials, patients receiving the drug are compared with similar patients receiving a different treatment, usually an inactive substance, a placebo, or a different drug. Safety continues to be evaluated and short-term side effects are studied. Typically, the number of subjects in phase 2 studies ranges from a few dozen to about 300. At the end of phase 2, the FDA and sponsors try to come to an agreement on how large-scale studies in phase 3 should be done. How often the FDA meets with a sponsor varies, but this is one of the most common meeting points prior to submission of a new drug application or a biologics licensing application. That would be an NDA or a BLA. The other most common time is a pre-submission meeting, right before a new drug application or BLA is submitted. Phase 3 studies begin if evidence of effectiveness is shown in Phase 2. These studies gather more information about safety and effectiveness, studying different populations and different dosages using the drug in combination with other drugs. The number of subjects usually ranges from several hundred to about 3,000 people. If a sponsor successfully completes the clinical development phase for a new drug or biologic, the next step is to submit a new drug application, an NDA, or a biologics licensing application, or BLA, FDA. I'm going to use the term NDA to indicate both NDAs and BLAs, just for simplicity. Before an NDA is submitted, FDA will meet with the sponsor to discuss the application. The primary purpose of this meeting is to identify those studies that are pivotal in establishing the drug's effectiveness, to discuss appropriate methods for statistical analysis of the data, to uncover major unresolved issues, and to discuss the best approach for the presentation and formatting of the data in the marketing application. After this meeting, the sponsor will submit the NDA. This is the formal step a drug sponsor takes to ask the FDA to consider approving a new drug or biologic for marketing in the United States. These applications include all animal and human data and associated analyses, as well as information about how the drug behaves in the body and how it is manufactured. When an NDA comes in, the FDA has 60 days to decide whether to file it so that it can be reviewed. The FDA can refuse to file an application that is incomplete. For example, some required studies may be missing. If the FDA files the NDA, an FDA review team composed of medical doctors, clinical pharmacologists, chemists, statisticians, microbiologists, pharmacologists, and other experts evaluates whether the submitted studies show that the drug is effective for its proposed use, and whether the safety assessment is adequate to conclude that the drug is safe for its proposed use. Because no drug is absolutely safe, safe in this sense means that the benefits of the drug appear to outweigh its risks. The review team analyzes the study results and looks for possible problems with the application, such as weaknesses in the study design or analyses and missing information that may be critical to FDA's decision. Reviewers determine whether they agree with the sponsor's results and conclusions or whether they need any additional information to make a decision. If the drug presents a particular safety concern, the application may include a proposed risk management plan. This may include conducting additional studies to further evaluate and characterize potential risks of the drug after approval. Both pre-market review and post-market surveillance staffs at FDA are involved in the review of any risk management plan, which will be part of the overall risk-benefit analysis. At the end of a review, each reviewer prepares a written evaluation for their discipline, including recommendations about the application. These evaluations are considered by team leaders, division directors, and office directors, depending on the type of application. In the course of its review, FDA may also call on advisory committees, a panel of outside experts, for input on a given application. Whether an advisory committee is convened depends on a number of factors, such as whether a drug raises significant safety questions, whether it is the first in its class, or whether it is the first drug for a given indication. At the time a drug is approved for marketing, not everything is known about the benefits and risks of the drug. Clinical trials are conducted using limited populations of several hundred to a few thousand patients. Because it's not possible to predict everything about a drug's effects during clinical trials, monitoring safety issues after drugs get on the market is critical. After a product is approved and used in a broader and more diverse population, new information may arise about the drug's safety that was not previously identified. The role of the FDA's post-marketing safety system is to detect serious, unexpected adverse events and take definitive action when needed.
You may be wondering where you can submit your comments to the FDA or register for a webinar or to, watch via the live webcast. Because the FDA has had difficulty with the government shutdown for its comment section, the National Fibromyalgia and Chronic Pain Association has prepared a page on its website that the FDA is allowing us to submit the comments through this portal. But we would like you to try to submit your comments to the FDA before you do it this way so that it goes directly to them and doesn't involve extra steps. You'll see on the screen that the URL is posted, and I'll leave it here for just a moment. On this article that's on our website, the NFMCPA taking FDA public comments. One way to find this, if you don't remember the article name, is to come to our website and do a search for the FDA. That search will bring up several different articles that have FDA in the title. Please scroll down until you see the article that's titled FDA Seeking Public NFMCPA Taking FDA Public Comments. So NFMCPA Taking FDA Public Comments. Click on it and then scroll down to these three options. One is to click here to sign up to view the webcast, and that is working. We're very glad that you can register to watch via the webcast. The second one, to register to attend the meeting, is here on their website that you would go to register for this meeting here at the link that is on the FDA's website. And this is the option that's had some problems, and it is having problems tonight, that you're not able to submit your comments through the FDA's website. They've asked that we go ahead and take any comments on our website through the portal that is on this page. So you can put in your name, your email address, and then upload your comments, and then submit it. And those will be received by the FDA. We will send them forward to them. So we don't know how long that the FDA's comment period will be unavailable on their website. It's been on and off with the government shutdown. So we know how important the comments are, and we're encouraging people to make them. Please submit your comments here if that link is not working here. We will send an email to us, to the people who participated in the webinar tonight, so that they will have additional resources. We appreciate your interest in preparing your comments about how fibromyalgia affects your life. Thank you very much, and that concludes our webinar presentation. If you have other questions or comments, please contact us at info@fmcpaware.org. Thank you. Good night.